It's time for the North Idaho Prepcast on idahosports.com.
That's right. Welcome in. It is another edition of the North Idaho Prepcast here on idahosports.com, where we break down all of the big news in Districts 1 and 2, week in, week out here in the great state of Idaho. My name is Brandon Bainey, and normally at this point in the show, I'd say, well, let's bring on our North Idaho resident and expert, Ryan Skaggs. Skaggs texted me about an hour ago and said, I'm not going to be able to do the show today because his day job, the place that actually pays him, is just a little too chaotic, which is understandable because, well, the weather is beautiful outside and we are in the thick of spring here in North Idaho. So this will be kind of an interesting exercise. It's just me today. You are stuck with me. So if you tune into the show to hear what Ryan has to say and you just tolerate me, this is not going to be the show for you. It's just me, and we will basically kind of whip through all of the big things happening in North Idaho this week. Before we get to that, though, the North Idaho Prepcast is brought to you by Cornerstone Insurance Northwest. It is home, boat, auto, airplanes, Airbnbs, everything in between. Cornerstone Insurance, NW.com for all of your insurance needs there. We do the North Idaho Prepcast every Wednesday morning. Typically, it's Thursday this week, but we try to do it 10 a.m. Pacific time live on the idahosports.com YouTube channel, Facebook page, and X account. You can, of course, watch the North Idaho Prepcast anytime on replay at those three destinations. You can also listen to the North Idaho Prepcast at idahosports.com. All of our prepcasts are on the left side of the home screen. And then you can also download and subscribe to the North Idaho Prepcast on your favorite podcast catcher, whether that is Spotify, Stitcher, Apple, etc. So if you are hanging out live today and you've got a question, it'll certainly help me as a solo host. If you just want to hang out and watch, that's cool too. As you are, though, if you can hit the like button or the subscribe button and share when it's all said and done, that'll help everybody find the North Idaho Prepcast a little easier on replay. And with that, let's get to it. Let's start with golf. I always start with golf because it is the sport that starts the earliest in the spring and also concludes the earliest in the spring. And so we had the Mullen Invitational yesterday. It was hosted at Pinehurst Golf Course, and we have team titles and individual medalists. On the boys' side, the Wallace Miners win by 40 strokes over Genesis Prep. Wallace shoots a 346. G-Prep shoots a 386. Wallace also boasts the individual medalist, Jordan Gardapi, who fired an 82. On the girls' side, it was only Genesis Prep and Wallace competing, and this one was a tight race. G-Prep edges Wallace by 3 strokes to win the team title. 509 for G-Prep, 512 for Wallace. Caden Stutzky from Wallace was the individual medalist there. So that's kind of what's going on in golf up here in North Idaho. As a reminder, spring sports golf, of course, is just for the 3A, 2A, 1A schools. 4A, 3A, 2A, 1A. 6A, 5A golf is in the fall. So they split up the golf seasons there. So it's all the smaller schools that do golf this time of year. Tennis, quickly. Yesterday, we had a couple of matchups. Sandpoint continuing to roll. They beat Post Falls 11-1. That's both boys and girls. Surprising that they didn't sweep. Sandpoint has swept several other teams this year, 12-0. So good on Post Falls for winning one of those matchups as Sandpoint continues to rock and roll. And then let's move to track and field. Track and field, we had last weekend the Oregon Relays. That's hosted at the University of Oregon's Hayward Field over there in Eugene. Our track and field rider, Marlo Herford, had a great write-up about all of the standouts from there and statewide in her weekly feature, The Bell Lap. That is every Tuesday morning. Marlo kind of empties the notebook. She's the best cross-country track and field reporter in the state of Idaho. And so she empties the notebook for us every week on The Bell Lap. And so she talked about the Oregon Relays a little bit and some of the standouts there. No surprise, if we're talking track and field, we're going to talk about the twin brothers from Coeur d'Alene, Zach and Max Servey Skinner. They took second and third in the 2-mile. And remember, this is a, big regional meet. Top athletes from Oregon, Washington, Idaho, all over. there. So to take second and third respectively in the entire field, pretty good. That is outstanding. And Kyle Rollinger placed 8th in the 2K steeplechase. And again, steeplechase is not something you get to do in high school, in season, in state, in Idaho, but these kind of regional unattached meets, you can do some of those more fun collegiate events. And so nice job there in the steeplechase. And then Coeur d'Alene's distance medley relay took 5th place overall as well. So those were just some of the highlights. If we look at the statewide track and field leaderboard, and we've got our first comment here from Max Oswald from the Bonner County Daily Bee. Speaking of golf, Priest Rivers Palmer Coleman, defending state champ, won at Pinehurst on Monday, 1 under par, 71. That's awesome. And Palmer Coleman is a name we recognize from so many other sports at Priest River as well. And so it has been a great year for Priest River. In terms of just overall competitiveness, their football team made the playoffs for the first time in a long time. Boys basketball, girls basketball were both very competitive, had chances of winning districts there. It's continued into the spring sports season. Bit of a renaissance at Priest River. Right around the time Max Oswald starts taking the beat full time. Coincidence? I don't know. I'm just saying. Priest River is doing fantastic, though, for sure. Back to track and field. If we look at the statewide leaderboards, we do have some North Idaho athletes that are leading the statewide races in their respective events. I mean, we talked about Zach Servey-Skinner from Coeur d'Alene. He is leading the 2 mile right now, the 3,200, best time in the state, 8 minutes, 58.33 seconds. That was last week at the Oregon Relays. Wyatt Carr set the best time in the mile, the 1,600 at last week's Oregon Relays, 4 minutes, 13.14 seconds. So Wyatt Carr in the 1,600, Zach Servey-Skinner from Coeur d'Alene in the 3,200, the 2 mile, both the best times in the state of Idaho right now in those distance events. That is it for boys. On the girls' side, statewide leaderboard, Annabelle Carr from Coeur d'Alene Charter. She was over competing at the Oregon Relays last week as well. She took, I think it was seventh in the varsity finals. But her time in the 800 of 2 minutes, 14.99 seconds is now the time to beat in the state of Idaho. So way to go, Annabelle Carr from Coeur d'Alene Charter, currently leading the entire state in the 800 there. And we also have from Bonners Ferry High School, another shot putter of acclaim. It's not Asha Abubakari. She's at Fresno State competing now at the Division I level, but plug and play here. Hallie Hartman, 42 feet even, still leads the state of Idaho in the shot put. That came several weeks ago at the Bonners Ferry Invite. And so that is awesome for Hallie Hartman of Bonners Ferry, still the top shot put mark in the entire state. And even further back, Prairie's Sage Elvin still has the top discus throw in the entire state, 138 feet, 3.5 inches. She set that at the Sweeney Invite all the way back on March 21st. And might as well make it a clean sweep in the throws. Kaylee Wood from Deary has the top javelin throw in the entire state as well for girls, 120 feet, 5 inches. It's pretty remarkable that 3 athletes from North Idaho, statewide leaders in all 3 throwing events, the shot put, the discus, the javelin. This is the first year that javelin is officially sanctioned as an event. We will have a state javelin competition for the first time in Idaho history later on this spring. And so not only is it 3 North Idaho athletes, but 3 athletes from smaller schools. Hallie Hartman from Bonners Ferry, that's a 4A school. Sage Elvin from Prairie in the discus, that's a 2A school. And Deary, the smallest level, 1A, a 1A athlete, Kaylee Wood, and she's a great athlete, leading the state in the javelin, which is just outstanding. So way to go, North Idaho throwers. There's been so many good throwers over the years. We talked about Asha Abubakari. We talked about in the past a lot Kessinger from Orofino. And so, just continuing the lineage of strong throwers up here from North Idaho for sure. All right, let's wrap up with a quick look at the latest baseball standings. And idahosports.com is the place to go. If you want the most accurate, fully completed scoreboard and standings, nowhere else has it as accurate as idahosports.com. It's the place you should go every morning, to be honest. Start your day off by checking what's going on at idahosports.com. We have the most accurate standings, the most complete scores and results of anybody in the state or out of state. So with that said, you could take these standings to the bank. In baseball, Coeur d'Alene leading the 6A Inland Empire League, 7-1 overall in the league, 8-1 in overall play. Their only blemish in IEL play came to Moscow by a single run, 9-8. Otherwise, Coeur d'Alene is undefeated. And so that's pretty good. It has been almost all Inland Empire League play. In fact, the only non-conference game they've had was against Ridgeline High from Liberty Lake in Washington way back to start the season. Coeur d'Alene's got a doubleheader at Post Falls, at home against Post Falls today. They went to Post Falls on Tuesday and swept both those games 3-1 and 13-3. And Coeur d'Alene's got a lot of power in the lineup this year too. A lot of guys hitting homers, doubles, triples. So keeping an eye on Coeur d'Alene in baseball. 5A Inland Empire League. How are those standings looking? And remember, the combined 6A, 5A IEL, the 5A teams generally have worse records because they're having to play all the 6A schools. So Lewiston is leading the 5A portion of the Inland Empire League with just a 5-5 record. But they've played, a lot of challenging teams like Lake City, who swept them by a pair of runs each time, 4-3, 3-2. They've split with Post Falls. They have split with Moscow. They have split with Sandpoint. Sandpoint got that early win, 8-5 in 8 innings. And even the wins over Lakeland, one of them was just by a run, 4-3. And so I don't really know how this league is going to shake out yet. Lewiston's 5-5, Sandpoint's 4-6, Moscow 2-4, Lakeland 1-5. I really think, no disrespect to Lakeland, I think those top 3 teams, Lewiston, Sandpoint, Moscow, if you said any of them were the district champ, it wouldn't really surprise me. Lewiston has a proud baseball pedigree. Of course, the 6A school up until this year where they dropped down a level. Moscow, defending state champions in baseball in the state of Idaho at this level, previously 4A, now 5A. I think Moscow's still got sleeper potential. The Bears are 2-4 overall in the league, but when you look at their results, they split with Coeur d'Alene. They're the only team that's beaten Coeur d'Alene this year. They lost to Lake City in a pair of heartbreaking games, one by 2 runs, one by 1 run, and then they split with Lewiston. So, it's still early, and wouldn't you know it, Moscow and Lewiston meet up today for a double dip. So I guess we'll know a lot more after today's doubleheader between Moscow and Lewiston. That will also conclude the regular season series between these two rivals as well. But I don't know. Lewiston, Sandpoint, Moscow, something's just telling me, Moscow. Keep an eye out for the Bears there. 4A. It's Timberlake. It's Bonners Ferry. Not enough data yet to know. Timberlake's 5-2. Bonners Ferry is 3-6. I just don't have enough good data yet. Like Timberlake swept Lakeland, but it was by a run each time. They lost to Potlatch, which is a really good 2A program. They've had a lot of games get postponed due to weather. They've played some Washington schools. They did just sweep Priest River on Tuesday, 16-1 and 17-2. So they definitely have a little bit of momentum built up. Bonners Ferry 3-6. They have swept St. Mary's twice. They played Orofino 3 times and lost all 3. Orofino's a really good team, defending state champion. So I don't know yet. Bonners Ferry is going to play Coeur d'Alene on Saturday in a doubleheader. That will be a good measuring stick. I don't expect Bonners Ferry to win those games because Coeur d'Alene is so good this year. But if they can be competitive and close, I don't know. That might tell me a little bit about these two teams. Always seem to trade blows. It's a 2-team league. So 3A, Central Idaho League. This is where it gets interesting. Right now, Grangeville and Orofino are on a collision course. The Bulldogs are 4-0 in CIL play. The Maniacs are 3-0. Orofino, of course, the reigning state champions. Grangeville has looked really good. They lost their first 4 games of the season to some teams from Southern Idaho, Marcine and Coal Valley Christian. They lost a game to Kendrick, but man, they have ripped off 5 wins in a row since over Bonners Ferry, Clearwater Valley, St. Mary's, and then a sweep of Kellogg, 30-0, 21-0, and then they just beat Kellogg again yesterday, 28-0. So in their last 3 games, they have outscored Kellogg in their 3 conference games. Everybody in the CIL plays each other 3 times. Just doing the quick math on the fly here, 30 and 21 is 51, 51 and 28 is 89 to nothing over Kellogg in 3 games. It's just incredible. Now, Grangeville and Orofino were supposed to play in Grangeville earlier this week, but that got postponed. Grangeville has been hammered by bad weather pretty consistently throughout the spring. And so I think the playing fields are still not in the best conditions. They're still working on that. But when Orofino and Grangeville make up those 2 games, it's going to be really fun. Hopefully it comes at the end of the year. Let's put those games in May and just, basically a CIL championship doubleheader to conclude the regular season. That's my vote. 2A, White Pine League, baseball. Wow. Continues to be as good as advertised. When we did this show a week ago, Clearwater Valley was undefeated in White Pine play. They have since dropped 2 in a row to Kendrick, 12-1, and Potlatch, 10-4. And so you combine that with a couple of losses at their South Fork Slugfest, and they have actually lost 5 of their last 6. Now, I still believe in Clearwater Valley. I think they got a decent team, but in this league, decent may not be good enough because this league is so good. I mean, Kendrick is 4-0 in the White Pine, 8-0 overall. Potlatch finally has gotten to play some games. They're 5-1 overall, 2-0 in the White Pine. And Troy, I've been talking up Troy a lot. Troy and Potlatch played for the championship last year. Potlatch defeated Troy. Troy finally got going. They beat Clearwater Valley at the South Fork Slugfest, and then they swept Genesee this week, 15-0, 23-0, the 2 wins. Dom Holden finally got to pitch this year for Troy. All he did was strike out 17 of the 19 batters he faced, which is just insane. So you've got 3 teams that are undefeated at the top of the standings: Kendrick, Potlatch, Troy. Clearwater Valley's 3-2, Genesee 2-2. And I would say keep an eye on Prairie still. Prairie's 1-3. They haven't played a lot of games. They've only had 5 games under their belt so far. And the losses, they lost to Kendrick 9-7. That's fairly close. They do have losses to Clearwater Valley and Potlatch along the way. They beat Lapwai this week 20-5. So it's going to be interesting. When do all these teams start playing each other in terms of Kendrick and Potlatch and Troy? Well, Kendrick was supposed to play Potlatch in March. That got postponed due to bad weather. Kendrick is not going to see Troy for the first time until Monday, April 14th. They will then play next Thursday, the 17th. Those are the 2 games against Troy. They're going to play Potlatch later on in April, and they still have the game with Potlatch to make up as well. In terms of Potlatch and Troy, when do they play? It's going to be Tuesday in Troy, and then the other game was postponed from March earlier this year, so we're still waiting to hear on when that game will get remade up as well. So because of Mother Nature, we could have some high-impact games down the stretch really affecting these baseball races. And we'll wrap up with softball. Just a quick look at the standings. Again, you can find all of this at idahosports.com. Coeur d'Alene, just like the baseball team, softball doing just fine. 6-0 overall, 4-0 in the Inland Empire League. But don't look now, Lake City is 6-1 in IEL play. They split with Post Falls, which could loom large they split with Lewiston, which could loom large in terms of the conference race this year. The game they lost to Lewiston was in 8 innings, so it went extras. They lost 8-7. That was in Lewiston. And right now, that is the separation between Coeur d'Alene and Lake City in the standings. Both teams doing really well. Coeur d'Alene has played Moscow twice and Sandpoint twice, and that's it for IEL play. So we're really going to find out about Coeur d'Alene here coming up. They have got 2 games today with Post Falls at Coeur d'Alene High, and then next Tuesday they travel to Lewiston. So I'm looking at that Coeur d'Alene-Lewiston double dip, and we'll see if Lewiston can split and, again, make the standings even more convoluted in the IEL. Speaking of Lewiston, how are they doing in the 5A Inland Empire League? They are on top, 6-2 in league play, 6-6 overall. Everybody else far behind. Lakeland is 1-2, so technically they are tied with Lewiston in the loss column. They haven't played a lot. It's a heavily backloaded schedule for Lakeland down the stretch, and so we'll see if that is a help or a hindrance. Meanwhile, for Lewiston, I mean, they've already completed 8 of their league games. They get 4, 6, 8, 4, 8, 12. I think there's like 16 games total. So they're already like halfway through their league schedule. And they've had some high scoring games for sure. So it'll be interesting to see if Lewiston can maintain this pace. They've lost to Lake City, obviously. They've swept Sandpoint this year. They split with Post Falls. This was kind of a wild one last Thursday after we did the show. They played Post Falls. It went to extras, 8 innings. The final score was Lewiston 20, Post Falls 22. So you don't see a lot of 22-20 back and forth slugfests that go extra innings, but you do there. And then Lewiston started this week by sweeping Moscow 17-13 and 15-10. So Lewiston with the Barney girls, looking pretty good there. 4A, same story. Timberlake's 5-1. Bonners Ferry is 2-1. Timberlake has owned the Intermountain League for the past several years. I don't anticipate a change there. Timberlake has played almost all exclusively Washington schools. They are 1-0 in Idaho this year. They beat Kellogg on Tuesday, 13-3. So Timberlake just kind of doing their own thing, out of sight, out of mind, and probably will be at state making noise again there with Coach Cassie Lupinacci. So 3A, Central Idaho League. Orofino is 4-1. St. Mary's is 3-1. Now, St. Mary's has been kind of the gold standard in this league for a long, long time in softball. They have taken a step back this year, as evidenced by their 5-4 overall record. Orofino off to a great start. They're 7-2. They're bashing the ball all over the place. They've got so many power hitters in that lineup, scoring a ton of runs. Orofino is averaging 16 runs per game. That's the tops in the entire Central Idaho League. They have beaten Kellogg once. Their split has come with Grangeville. And Grangeville's kind of interesting. They're sitting there 3-2, 4-6 overall. It's a lot of these basketball, volleyball athletes that we're used to seeing, produced at a high level. Karis Barger and Adelaide LaFay and athletes like that. So, keep an eye on Grangeville as well. They're in the CIL standings. And then the White Pine League to wrap up, Genesee, Potlatch, Kendrick are all 3-0. In order, I'd probably list it Genesee 1, Potlatch 2, Kendrick 3. Kendrick, yes, they're 3-0. They're 3-5 overall, and they have had a propensity of giving up a lot of runs. I mean, look at their 3 conference wins over Prairie, 19-12, and then they swept Nez Perce 22-21 and 23-15. That is a high wire act. Kendrick is scoring 13 runs per game. They're allowing 16, so they actually have a minus run differential overall, a negative run differential. That's a hard way to continue to try and win. Meanwhile, Genesee and Potlatch, the defense is on point. Genesee's only allowing 3 runs per game. Potlatch is allowing 4. So that to me is really the race, Genesee and Potlatch. And Genesee, of course, defending state champs. So I would say they are still the favorite. I mean, they beat Lapwai last week 37-3. 37-3. Just think about that. They don't play Potlatch until next Thursday. So that'll be a telling data point there. And that game will take place in Potlatch. So there you go. Everything you could have possibly wanted to know about spring sports in North Idaho. And we did it. We got through the show together. This just proves I don't have a career in talk radio. I could not sit here and talk to nobody for hours and hours. I don't know how those guys that host like a 3-hour radio show do it. Like Colin Cowherd. He's just talking to nobody for 3 hours. So I definitely don't have that skill set. I appreciate everybody hanging with me here on the North Idaho Prepcast, presented by Cornerstone Insurance NW. One final note before we get out of here. The North Idaho Athletic Hall of Fame banquet set for Saturday at the Coeur d'Alene Resort. 5 new Hall of Fame members will be inducted. There are going to be more than 50 individual awards handed out to North Idaho athletes, both high school and collegiate. It's a really fun night. It's a who's who of North Idaho excellence in athletics. All the big names are going to be there. And because all the big names are going to be there, seating is limited. And so for the second year in a row, idahosports.com will be live streaming the North Idaho Athletic Hall of Fame banquet. So all of you that can't go in person to the Coeur d'Alene Resort, you can sit at home and watch your favorite athlete perhaps win one of those 50-plus awards on idahosports.com. We'll also stream it to the idahosports.com YouTube channel, Facebook page, X account, and Instagram account. So a lot of different ways to watch this weekend's North Idaho Athletic Hall of Fame banquet starting at 6:30 Pacific time right here on idahosports.com. All right. Thanks for tuning into the North Idaho Prepcast, everybody. For Ryan Skaggs, I'm Brandon Baney. We will both be back here next week for another edition on idahosports.com.